Nadine Dorries is here. She's, of course, been in the I'm a Celebrity jungle, but she has a new book out. It is called Downfall. And it might be just that for the Conservative politicians, she says, use Westminster as their personal playground.
Ooh, I wouldn't call it a playground. The former Tory Culture Secretary tells the tale of a party on the verge of extinction. The same party that, of course, unceremoniously suspended her after she decided to take part in the 2012 series of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Remember this?
Oh!
You're doing well. You're doing very well.
Oh, it's going in now. Oh! Oh, it's going in my hair. Oh, you're going to bury me if you put any more in. Oh. You get me out of here.
All right, let's get you out.
Oh, oh, get me out.
Get you out now.
Getting you out.
Oh, get me out. Oh, please don't my leg.
Stand up.
Oh. Oh.
That's it. Come around here.
God.
Lacey, I would have thought that as an ex-nurse working in cockroach-infested hospitals, you would have been fine with that.
Cockroach-infested Westminster was more familiar to me by that time. But, you know, Helen went out before me. So Helen was out first.
You did OK, didn't you?
Contrary to popular opinion, Westminster was actually in recess during that time.
Oh, right.
So I knew I had 12 days and I knew I had to get home in 12 days.
Oh, that's interesting, because, of course, you were the first sitting MP to ever appear on the show.
Yeah.
And you were sort of sacked from the Conservative Party in the sense that you lost the whip.
For a very short period of time, yeah.
Yeah, for doing that.
I think so. The media outcry was ferocious. Why isn't she in Westminster? Well, what the media didn't write was that Westminster was actually on recess for 12 days. They didn't put that bit. And I think David Cameron felt compelled to respond to the media outcry.
Wouldn't happen today, would it?
No,
Things have relaxed so much more in terms of MPs doing stuff on telly.
Yeah. Whether it's doing it when Parliament's sitting is completely different. I'm not sure I would never have gone if Parliament had been sitting, and I'm not sure it's right to do it while Parliament is. I don't think anybody has.
Did you have fun, though?
Well, you know, I wouldn't do it again.
You wouldn't?
That sounds like a no, you didn't have fun.
I did. Do you know, I loved the experience. It stays with you for life.
Mm-hmm.
Have either you've done it, haven't you?
I did it in the castle because of COVID.
You did it in Wales, didn't you?
Yeah, in a Welsh castle.
So
it's freezing.
kind of, it sticks with you for life. It never leaves you.
Yeah. And the trauma.
It's not just the trauma, but it's a very different experience, you know?
Yeah.
In fact, I even wrote about it last week. Sorry for the plug, my column in the Daily Mail. I was involved in because there was so much outcry, when I left the jungle, I was involved in what was almost a life and death chase with the Paps. I was in the footwell of a car in the back, and my amazing driver, Bruno, was weaving his way around Brisbane housing estates and parked up in somebody's driveway in someone's carport to try and shake the Paps off. It was just... You don't go through that in your life very often, you know? And that was pretty hairy. That was the most terrifying moment for me.
Well, let's talk about your book. It's a factual book.
You come from Liverpool?
Yeah. I know my rights. But it reads like a novel, but it's not a novel. It's very, very pacey, very, very fast. And, all right, the bit that I have to say really made me sit back in my chair and go, what? Really? We all know that some MPs get up to things that they shouldn't get up to, and occasionally it ends up in court, and sometimes in a libel court. We know all that. But you make the Palace of Westminster sound like some sort of Roman orgy. You say, you know, when the lights are going dim, you're walking around the corridors and it's all going on.
So let's put that into context. There are a group of MPs who, and, you know, in order to get this in the book and through the lawyers, I had to provide all the evidence of WhatsApp screen grabs and photographs and everything else to back it up.
OK, but can we just say no names?
No names.
No names. No.
So, and I'm very aware of that. So, no names. But, you know, I wouldn't have been able to get any of that into the book unless I had absolute evidence to back it up. It's absolutely true. Let me give you an example. There are a large group of MPs in Westminster who use a group WhatsApp thread with the initials RN, which stand for right now. And there are two officers, and I know, and I'm aware this is breakfast. I mean, my own 3-year-old granddaughter's watching this, so I'm going to be very careful of how I explain this. There are two officers used in Portcullis House for group activities. Now, I'll just leave it to your imagination of what those group activities are with that WhatsApp thread.
And that's a WhatsApp...
That's a WhatsApp thread ran by one individual, controlled by one individual, in Westminster for the purposes of those group activities in those two offices. Now, you know, some people have said to me and are saying to me on social media, well, it's up to individuals what they do. Absolutely. What people do in their private life, this is in a workplace, and not any workplace. No. It's a workplace that the public elect you to go and serve them in. And I compare it to like, you know, who are other paid public servants? When a doctor walks into a hospital, I don't expect him to be popping into offices or, you know, to engage in those kind. When a barrister walks into the Royal Courts of Justice, we don't expect them to behave in this way. And I'm afraid for a number of MPs in Westminster, it is more about the cheap booze and the hedonistic activities that they engage in than actually doing the job. And I have the evidence to prove that, because it is not just a few people on these WhatsApp threads. So, you know, I have the names, I have the list of people who are on them.
What is it about being in the Palace of Westminster, being in the House of Commons? You mentioned the booze, the cheap booze at the Commons bar. What is it that seems to sharpen so many MPs' sexual appetites? I
think they arrive in Westminster, you know, it's the men, by the way. This isn't the women. This is the men. The women take the job very seriously. This is the men. And I think they arrive in Westminster, and it's very much ego-driven. They feel very special, because they've been elected to go to this very important place, and I think it just goes to their head, and somewhere else, actually. It just goes to their head, and they're these very important people, when actually in the past they hadn't achieved very much, particularly in their lives, you know. They weren't particularly special in any form of work they'd undertaken in the past. Suddenly they get to the Westminster, and they're the big boy, you know, and it goes to their head. And along with that, and the adoration they feel they're receiving from various constituents, you know, it's all about fueling this ego. You know, if your journey to get to Westminster ends being stood on a podium and you're announced the winner, you know, you're the person being sent in my case, my party wrapped up in a blue ribbon and sent to Westminster, and I think it just goes to their head, along with the cheap booze and all the... You know, there's something odd about Westminster. People go around amongst MPs. MPs every day tell each other how amazing they are. Nadine, that was the most brilliant speech you have just given in the chamber. I have never heard a speech so well delivered. It was utter nonsense.
And then behind your back?
Oh, God knows, you know, behind your back.
Did you hear Nadine? Oh,
yeah,
my God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But MPs go around telling each other how amazing they are all day long.
Feeding each other's egos.
Yeah. And it's just this... And also, there's the element of culture. You know, we see it at the post office, we see it in the NHS. We see what happens in organisations when cultures grow. And I think in political parties, which haven't been challenged for a very long time, a culture grows which becomes toxic. Behaviours which 15 years ago would have been unimaginable become slowly accepted as people begin to learn about them. They go unchallenged, and then when they become unchallenged, they become accepted.
The book is about the Conservative Party, so does this apply to all MPs, what you're saying, or just the Conservative Party?
No. I have to say, since began in 2015, became worse in 2017 and was out of control in 2019. So the MPs that have come through more recently, it's gathered pace. And I also blame social media to a huge degree, because a lot of these MPs are more interested in how many likes they're getting on Instagram and Twitter than they are in terms of what they're doing when they're in the House of Commons.
Why did you write the book?
So I wrote the plot, which was about the removal of Boris Johnson, because people did not know what went on behind the scenes. They didn't know who the individuals were who were running the Conservative Party. And I have to say, it gave me great satisfaction yesterday to see in the Sunday Times, they were writing about the people that I outed in the plot 12 months ago. So it was really fascinating for me to see that, you know, the plot has moved the dial, in that some of these people are now exposed.
But why did you write this one?
So this one was about where the plot finished off. I honestly, I don't like writing political books, and I just don't enjoy it. It is not like writing a novel. There is nothing creative about doing this. There's nothing that gives you any satisfaction. Finished the plot, and then people read it, and then suddenly I started getting lots of people contacting me and saying, yeah, but you didn't cover this, and you should know about what's been going on now. And then I found myself being presented... It was those screenshots that I was sent, the photographs that I was sent, that made me think, I can't not do this. I can't not write this story. But you know, this bit that we've just been speaking about, what goes on in offices, it's a very small part of the book. The book is about the real, behind-the-scenes reasons as to why Rishi Sunak called an election that he knew was going to result in the Conservative Party having massive losses.
In a nutshell, why did he?
So that would be telling you what's in the book. That would be called a plot spoiler.
OK, fine.
But there were very strong reasons why he did it.
OK.
I feel utterly speechless at what you've just divulged.
How do you think I felt writing it?
Well, what's the backlash? Because you're talking about, and you do name a lot of names, and you are very, very critical, and people have come out very robustly, you know, defending their reputations. But that must also be something you have to be aware of when you're writing. I mean, Kemi Badenoch said that she had an increase in stuff that she got. Let me tell you this. Kemi Badenoch said she received death threats as a result of claims that you made about her. Showing an interviewer a threatening message that she received on her phone, she claimed they had intensified since the plot was published. That's quite... You know, we've been talking about free speech and the policing of social media. You've criticised social media.
Yeah. Well, I can't be responsible for how... And can I just say, you know, Kemi's been elected as leader of the Conservative Party. I'm a member of the Conservative Party.
Do you support
and therefore,
her now?
She is now... I respect the wishes of the membership and those MPs who have voted for Kemi to lead the party.
Are you sorry about the fact that she's received these
Absolutely not, because, you know, I suppose why I find myself now in the capacity of a truth seeker, and I'm afraid, you know, actions have consequences, and it doesn't mean that because you decide to act in a certain way that it's never spoken about, you know, it's never written about. And I would just go back to my initial point to you when we started talking about downfall. Nothing is allowed, I can tell you, that my publishers' lawyers and the external barristers that they use, nothing goes in these books unless it's had the life lawyered out of it.
Yeah. All right,
not a word in those books is anything other than the absolute truth. Even things which are true, which are not allowed to go in because I don't have enough sources. Well, I have evidence, but they will say to me, well, that's only two sources, we need 4 affidavits.
Given that the book exemplifies the power of freedom of speech, what's your opinion of the row surrounding Alison Pearson and the tweet that she sent a year ago that the police are now investigating?
You know, it's utterly shocking. And I'm the Secretary of State who took the online safety bill out of the weeds where it was an empty shell, turned it into a bill which came before Parliament in 12 months. I was the Secretary of State who did that. Right. And so that was never the intention of that bill in terms of online behaviour and commentary. What Alison Pearson, the police knocked on her door, was a non-crime. How did they phrase this? A non-crime?
No, it wasn't. She got that wrong, she admits now.
It looks as if it was actually. They are investigating it as a crime.
But we know what Alison did. She put up a tweet. She'd used the wrong flags, the wrong imagery, from the wrong place, the wrong picture. She was told it was wrong. We've all done it. Someone said, oh, you know, if you use the wrong picture there, whatever, you take it straight back down again. And I think she's quite clear what she didn't target a particular group. And I was very strong on this when I was... For me, it came from the point of view of footballers who were constantly being abused when they had played a match with, you know, monkey emojis and other things. You know, that's what the online safety bill was trying to tackle. But she wasn't targeting a group of people. It wasn't a tweet which was motivated in racial hatred. Her tweet was... She was highlighting the actions of the police, who she felt, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, which were to do with the two-tier system argument.
It was at the height of the two-tier policing round.
That's right, yeah. And that's where, and they are not covered by in any way by any piece of legislation. Of course we can all criticise the police if we want to. They are public servants, just like we can criticise MPs. You can say what you like about MPs, not that I am one anymore. You can say what you like about the police, because they are public servants and we're here. I was there, they are there to serve the public. Okay. They are not a targeted or a characteristic group which requires protection.
All right. Essex Police obviously interviewing, or have invited to interview a woman related to an investigation into an alleged offence of inciting racial hatred reported to them by a member of the public. That's the statement from Essex Police this morning. Nadine Dorries, thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Lovely to see you.
Great to talk to you. Really interesting. And it's a fun read.